sadness is meant to completely go away, but it has to be replaced with hope. For that to happen, it has to be felt, and then we have to find the hope. It really does completely go away, no matter how sad something is. Anytime somebody feels sadness, it doesn't matter how deep it is. If it's just sadness and they're able to feel it fully and then go through these steps to seek hope, it goes away completely every single time.
Acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the emotional blueprint.
What happens for people if they're not following this natural order of finding balance before they go into some heavier stuff is that they intellectually process the trauma, but your body will not let you let go of the pain. Nope. Unless you're, and I'm not an absolutist, but there's a gentle and a natural way to heal, and this is definitely it. And so there might be some exceptions, but for the most part, this is the way, for sure. So it's not the other thing that's really damaging, or that can be damaging for people, or I think creates suffering for people, is when they dive into trauma when they're not ready. They believe they're working through it, and they believe that they are done with it when they've only just like intellectually worked through it. And so they're so disappointed or upset when they find out later that it's like, oh, like emotionally it's all still there. So I see that a lot. So.
Right. And I think you have to be really kind of in tune with yourself to realize what your bandwidth is. Like if I'm out of my window of tolerance, there's nothing that's going to happen. I'm going to come in traumatized. I'm going to leave even more traumatized. And then you are just in a constant state of trauma. So that's what I think makes a good therapist or a good friend is when they, or even just being more self-aware, is recognizing where, okay, I can't do anymore. You know what I mean? Like, actually, we need to stop now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I've pushed those limits and it hasn't gone well.
And I totally admire these people who like are in such a horrible state, but they're still just willing to like go through more crap. Like it's like, and I want to say like, hey, like it doesn't have to be this hard. Like it shouldn't, you shouldn't have to kill yourself to go through to like heal. Like there's a very gentle and natural way to do that. And that's what we're about to talk about. So yeah, any other thoughts on what we're talking about?
No, I've just found in my own practice that like when I sit down intentionally to do some work, like you gave me a homework assignment a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to work on like what is actually letting go. I really feel I'm okay to let go, but I was missing a whole other piece, you know? And I remember sitting outside and really asking, like you said, like in my past, I thought emotional release or emotional process or talking about hard things had to be hard, dramatic, sad, I'm crying, I'm barfing, whatever, right? And I remember just saying a little prayer and just being like, hey, can I work on this with ease and grace? Can I shift this? Can I journal this out and do it with ease and grace? And I was like, literally, those were the words of my prayer of ask, because I've experienced both ways. And it really, like you said, I didn't know it could be easy. You know what I'm saying? And light and comforting. It didn't have to be so horrific, because I've been on both sides, you know? So I love that. I think people really have to know that it can be with ease and grace.
There's this really cool scripture in the Bible where Jesus says, walk in the meekness of my spirit, or walk in the gentleness of my spirit, and you shall find peace in me. And so I think that's kind of like what we're talking about. Yeah. So it's really cool. So, Anything else before we talk more specifics?
Well, I feel like I have to share this part because I love what you shared with me. So for all you guys listening, we had gone to lunch with some friends. We were talking about, how difficult it is to actually let go. And I was sitting at the table and Corey looked at me and he's like, you've got a lot of sadness. And I'm like, started crying and I'm looking at him going, yeah, I do. I don't know how to get rid of this. I've been working on this for so long. And I think a lot of us get really frustrated. Like, how do you actually let it go? Like, I'm going back in, I'm feeling it, I'm talking about it, I'm processing it, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you guys were very kind and empathetic. And then we got in the car and then Corey called me later and said, hey, listen, I want you to go home and you've got this letting go down. You've got this feeling down, but you're missing the piece of seeking now for something. So it's like you have to let go of something, but then there's this space of now what do you fill it up with? So if you have all this sadness, all this grief, okay, you let it go, but then you have this vacuum. And I was missing the second part of filling that with hope. And Corey shared the most beautiful scripture. He was like, listen, if you really are really wanting to give this up, you say it. You said it to me about the comfortless thing. What did you tell me?
Oh,
it was so beautiful.
Just the promise of, I think this promise applies, especially if somebody believes in God or Christ, but I think it applies in a lot of ways if you don't. But the saying is, the promise is, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come unto you.
Right. And sometimes and when there was just something about that moment that you shared that with me that I believed you. Because sometimes I'm like, bull, that's not real.
Most of the time you're like, Corey, that's bull.
I'm like, no, you know how many times I've been comfortless? That's full of crap. But there was something about how you delivered it to me that day. And I really thought, because I feel like I'm pretty fluent in emotions and emotional work. Mm-hmm. But I was banging myself up, just doing the same thing and it wasn't going anywhere. And I thought, oh, okay. And so, like I said, I always go out to the grass and I do this little work. And I was like, all right, if this is real, if this is really real, I need some help to let this go and to not be comfortless. You know what I mean? And so whether you believe that's from a higher power or your own higher self or whoever, it just helps that extra little bit when you are in that state of overwhelm and maybe you don't have someone with you or your body is, in that first aid emotions, and you can really truly ask for that extra help to help calm so that you can get back to balance, to be able to process, to be able to work through things, because I get hijacked and then I'm gone, So
what happened? How was the experience?
It was really good. I get really, a lot of people, I don't know, call it whatever you want, but I'm very friendly with my guides, with my higher powers. And so I talk to them like, hey, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I got pretty, I don't know, it feels very vulnerable just to be sharing it just so freely. But yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I had a lot of tears and I really, really begged and asked. And it was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be sad anymore. Like, please take this from me. My spirit is happy. My body is sad. Like, let's move on. Like, what do I need to do? I really sat and just asked, and then I listened. Like, I'm much more comfortable meditating, listening than pleading and asking.
Sure.
And so I really sat for a while. I was outside for almost 2 hours with my little notebook, with all of it, and just sat there and was like, I start bargaining. I'm like, I'm not getting up until I feel better. I will sit here all day. Like, I'll just do a standoff till I feel better. And then I did. So it was really nice. But it was that hope piece.
Well, I'm happy that you got what you needed.
Well, thank you.
And so if you feel more comfortable, share later. So let's just talk about sadness then, since we're on the topic. And so we're going to talk more about emotional balance. And like, sadness can be a part of this, but sometimes sadness is deeper work. So whatever, it doesn't matter if we're going in order or not for this podcast. But yeah, let's talk about sadness. So sadness is a heavy emotion. Mm-hmm. It's one of the emotions that takes up the most space and weight.
I'm like 80% sadness, I think. I really am. I don't look like it, but I am. I'm like, I get sadness. Like, that's my old friend. That is so real, so heavy. It is an energy. It is a tangible energy. And you feel it. Like when you wake up and you're like, oh, I have a little cold coming on. I have a little flu coming on. Sadness, depression. It is literally a thing.
So depression is going to be different. We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, so you're spot on. So like it's heavy. The other couple emotions that are pretty heavy or that take up a lot of energy are shame. Shame's a really heavy one. And then anger is another one. But yeah, so let's talk about sadness. So every single emotion that we experience is a messenger with a message. Emotions are not the enemy. They are the answer to how to have more peace and fulfillment in our life. So really important to listen to them. So what does it mean when we feel sad? The cool thing is, every time we feel sad, it means the same thing. So sadness is our body telling us that we are experiencing a loss of hope. And this is what we were talking about at lunch. So sadness there's some circumstance where it can just mean we're experiencing a loss but it's always means a loss or a loss of hope. Okay. So how specifically does somebody work through that? So sadness is one of those emotions that needs to be felt. So step one, you need to feel it first. So, okay, I feel sad. I'm taking time to actually feel it. And then the second step is if I want the sadness to completely go away, I have to, like you said, I have to replace it with actual hope, real hope.
What if you don't have hope? Is there an in-between? Like if you're like, it's got to be hope.
It's got to be hope. Huh. Well, like you can do whatever, but if you don't want to feel sad anymore, you need to find hope.
Okay.
And so why don't we talk about that? So what does that mean to you? So let me just preface that by saying, we're not talking about like there's maybe two different types of hope. We could say there's surface hope. Like, I hope the weather's nice tomorrow because I want to go on a picnic. I hope I don't drop my phone going down the stairs. So there's surface hope, and we're talking about the second, the deeper hope. And so, yeah. So what does it mean to have hope? What is hope?
Yeah. You're asking the sad girl. The girl that can't find hope
who just had this incredible experience. So.
It's just that things are going to be different. That there's a different perspective. A lot of times it's my perspective. It's like, okay, fine. I can't change my life. I can't change my marriage. I can't change this illness, this whatever. Then help me change my perspective. Help me pivot. Even if it's just like 1 degree. Like sometimes when I don't know, I get low. So sometimes I just need that slight, just little bit of a change. And that right there is huge.
For sure.
Because it's not going to be this huge, big change. But when you're hopeless, that's a dark place.
Sad, hopeless. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a dark place.
Yeah. So hope, I would say to me, it's a feeling. It's like tangible light.
Yep.
Yeah. It's what is hope to you?
You just answered it. Hope is feeling the truth of something in our future, or feeling the truth of something that we can't currently see.
I like that one.
That one's probably better.
Yeah, I like that one.
I'll throw out 10 other ones.
Okay, what's the next one? Hope.
So hope is feeling the truth of something that I can't currently see.
Hope almost feels to me like my heart comes back online.
The Wi-Fi password successful.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
it was like,
bloop. Bloop. It makes that noise for you too, I've noticed.
It does. Yeah, I feel like when I am null and void of love, there's no hope too. So I think
that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Because when I get angry or sad or nihilistic or so resentful, like none of that is loving feelings. So when there's no love, to me, there's no hope. When there's no gratitude, there's no hope. So I have to shift a lot to get to hope.
That's actually really powerful because hope is a gift.
Oh, for sure. That
and hope is light, and hope is love too. I think it's all those things combined in one experience. If you're feeling sad and we're about to talk about some specific things you can do. If you really do these things, then hope is going to happen. So
how do you handle when you have someone in your office who has just gone through something so horrific and they are literally looking at you with like, Corey, how? There's no going on from whatever that is. And you're sitting there going, what? Like trying to help them see hope. Like what do you do to help people get from the depths to even just a little bit of hope?
So the greatest form of acceptance, the greatest form of acceptance is feeling pain. That is literally how we accept something difficult and traumatic, is we have to feel it. That's how we accept it. So when we feel pain, when we feel that sadness, it's the softening. It's the preparer. It prepares us to receive hope. So in the situation you described, if someone's like in the depths and they might need to struggle with it more. They might need to suffer with it a little bit before they're had enough. And they're like, I'll do whatever I need to. I just want this to get better. Kind of like your experience. It's like the sadness, you might have wrestled with it for years. And then you're like, you know what? You went to lunch with us and there was some sadness there. And you're like, I'm ready. I want this to go away. And so you're in a state of willingness. And then so when you start to feel it, it can lead into hope. So short answer to your question is like you helping somebody get ready to feel it. And they suffer enough where they're like, yeah, I'll do whatever I need to. So,
but like as a friend, like if I have a friend who just had such loss and I'm sitting there with them, empathizing, just mourning with them, not trying to fix anything, right? That's, I think, the part, even as a mom, like when your kid calls and you're like, I don't know how to help you. Like, I don't know how to have you see it if this is the answer, right? I'm still missing, there's still, for me, I wish I had a better understanding of how to, like you said, someone's got to want it really bad, but I wish there was something that people who care about others could do to help them feel a little bit of hope. Because it's like, sometimes that pisses you off. You know what I mean? You're like, no, actually just be pissed with me right now. Like, let's just be mad. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Instead of, it's going to be better one day, or it's not always going to look like, do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Like, how do you be better at helping someone who's dealt with something horrible with giving them hope? You know, I don't.
From a friend to a friend, if you approach me like that, I wouldn't for like you said, I wouldn't for 1 second even think about trying to like give you advice.
Okay.
It's just like being there with the empathy, just being there with you with it. I think is just knowing that just knowing that someone's not alone or that you're not alone in it is powerful and really validating for someone, and that a lot of times helps them. That I think that helps people more than anything gets to a point where they're ready to like actually feel it fully and embrace it the way they need to then hopefully find hope.
Okay.
Or to seek hope.
Got it.
So
yeah, that's so tricky. It's so tricky being in that space it's hard.
So the thing that's been unfortunate that I've noticed that's like a cultural belief is that if something really sad happens to me, to some degree, it's going to stay there my whole life. That is not true. Sadness is meant to completely go away, but it has to be replaced with hope. For that to happen, it has to be felt, and then we have to find the hope. And then it really does completely go away, no matter how sad something is.
Really? See, I don't know. I feel like at this point in my life, I've I mean, I guess I just am not as hopeful that it goes away. I think of it more like this will always be a part of me, and I just can manage it better. I recognize it better. I've befriended it. It's my old friend. I'm like, oh, there you are. Because I wish my stuff would just go away. So maybe I'm the worst person to talk to about this, because I could not say today that my deepest wounds and my sadness that I've worked on for decades is gone.
Right.
I wanted that miracle. I prayed for that miracle. I wanted those things to just be gone. And then once I was like, okay, maybe it's not going to be totally gone for me. Maybe for others, it can be totally gone, because I know that's true. Somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm totally good now. Like it doesn't, but I like to hold it all and carry it forever, I guess. But it's more like it doesn't hurt as much, maybe, or it's not as intense. It's just little. It's not so big. But you really are going to just, it can go fully gone.
And if you want it to, my friend, we will experience that on this podcast journey.
Okay. I accept this challenge, because I'm like calling big fat hooky. No, but I would want that. I would want that.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come
really?
on this. I'm serious, because I know that because I know that you're really humble, and I know that, well, you are, and I know that you're really sincere, and we wanted to see some of your healing process unfold as we go through. Wow. And that's what we are going to see happen. But I promise you, there's it's going to be more complex than just sadness in your case. I'm sure it's probably not just sadness, but it's a truth and a promise that I've just seen it too many times. I'm like 1,000 for 1,000.
Yeah.
In my own personal life, I'm like 100 for 100, but in the lives of the people I've seen, anytime somebody feels sadness, it doesn't matter how deep it is. If it's just sadness, and they're able to feel it fully and then go through these steps to seek hope, it goes away completely every single time. I promise you.
No, you keep saying this.
So it'll.
All right, you guys, let's watch and see. Guinea pig here.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Sadness is going to go away. No, it definitely gets lighter, but yeah, I would like to hope that in my highest hopes, that is a true statement for me and for everyone else.
Cool.
That would be awesome.
Cool. So let's talk about the steps of hope. So you feel sad, you welcome that emotion, you feel it, and then now it's time to seek hope. So let's talk about the steps on like how to actually do that. So let's talk about truth for a second. So another word for hope is truth. It's the truth or about your future, about something that you can't currently see right now. Okay. So, what is truth? So truth is things as they were, things as they are right now, and things as they will be in the future. Okay. So God and spiritual avenues, they don't care. Truth is truth. If we need truth, they will deliver it in whatever they'll help. God will help us to see things as they really were, or see things as they are right now, or see things as they really will be. So as human beings, we put this limitation. Like most human beings are pretty good. We're pretty good at like believing that we can know and have clarity about things that have already happened. And we seem to be fine with believing we can have clarity about our current life and where we're at right now. But it's really difficult. Humans really struggle with putting this limitation of like, I can't know what my future is going to be. I can't know if I'm going to ever get married. I can't know if this relationship is going to work out. And my message is that anytime you experience sadness, not only can you know, but you're meant to know what your future is in that and within the framework of sadness. So personally, I've learned to love sadness. I don't enjoy it when it's happening because I feel sad, but I've learned to love it because I know what it leads to. Okay. So steps to find hope. Okay. So let's talk about that. So the first step to find hope is to ask the right question. And so what's the right question? So what question could I ask God, and however you view God, but what question can I ask God that if I got an answer to is really going to help me to feel better? Okay. So example, I'll share a personal example. So when I was in my single days, I was dating this girl, and her sister spread some crazy rumor about me. I can't even remember what it was. And to her, and she unexpectedly broke up with me. Right. So I'm walking up to my apartment, and I can feel the sadness starting to weigh on me because it's a heavy emotion. And so I go to my room, and I know how this kind of works. I've had some experience with sadness and finding hope, seeking hope. And so I know that the first step is to ask the right question. So I'm feeling really sad about this. So it's like, what am I feeling sad about? Well, I'm feeling sad because like my girlfriend just broke up with me. And we were supposed to go to Italy in a couple weeks. And, you know, I was in love with her. And so like so my questions that I was just going to go for it. My question was like, are we still going to go to Italy? That was like the most important.
What? It's so awkward.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But that was important to me. It was like it was
for sure. Tickets were bought. Like
tickets were bought, and it
was just the two of you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh wow, this was serious, girlfriend.
It was serious, yeah. And the second question was like, am I gonna marry this person? Like, is it gonna work out? I specifically am like, you know, I'm going to go for it. Like, am I going to marry this person? I remember those two questions. So if I got an answer to those two questions, that's going to be very hopeful for me. That's going to replace the sadness. That's what would help me to feel better. Okay. So this first step is important because it requires you to do some of the groundwork on like, what do I actually feel sad about? And what do I actually need? What question can I ask that if I got an answer to is really going to help me to feel better?
Did you get an answer to those questions?
I'm not going to share the rest of that until you share the rest of your story. No, I'm just kidding. I'll share the rest of it in just a second.
Okay.
So that is the first step. I actually really will, because that's the first step, is asking the right questions. Now, this is I have to say this because in my observation, I try to be super open. And in my observation and helping people go through this process, you have to be like a tree. And what I mean by that is if you observe a tree, if you just are in a still space and you're observing a tree, you're like, wow, this tree is completely dependent on something greater than itself for it to stay alive. The roots are deep into the earth. It is reliant on Mother Earth to stay alive and to grow and to continue to grow. The importance of us, of whatever you feel comfortable with. I personally believe in God. I think God is really good. He's been really good to me. If you're open to that, definitely explore that. But it seems to be really important for you to, at the very minimum, believe in something greater than yourself. If that's a mountain, and I know you've had some really cool experiences of being open to trying different things out, and we were talking about that, and that's really cool. So, but directing this question to something greater than yourself,
right, is
super important. So just thoughts so far. We're only on step one.
I just love the visual of the tree, because so many times when I'm in a spot, I will go and seek external, or I'll go call a friend, or I'll call a therapist, or I'll do something out, or I'll go shopping, right? Do something, go on a walk. And when I'm thinking and visualizing that tree can't get up and go get itself some water, right? That tree can't like come up out of the water or out of the ground and like walk with its little legs over, and it has to just stay. I never have ever, and I'm a tree lover. I mean, you're speaking my language. So I've never actually thought of the stillness of that tree, trusting that there's going to be something outside of itself. That's really cool. I appreciate that.
Trees are full of hope.
You think?
Yeah.
Even the sad ones?
Even the sad ones. Yeah. They've had too many times when they've, is water going to come? Is sunlight going to come? And and they stay grounded.
Yeah.
And it happens every single time. And for some, perhaps it doesn't. But that doesn't apply to us as humans.
It does me.
Listen, no.
I'm that tree.
Stay tuned for Kimberly's hopeful.
No, I like that.
I do want to ask you, so we're still on step one. I do want to ask you though, like what, other than God, other than this male, perhaps this, I guess in Christian, this male figure of God, what are some other avenues where you've been able to find comfort from, or hope from, or answers from? What are some other avenues greater than yourself? Because I know you have more exploration, I think, in that than I do, and I think it's important for people to have some what they feel comfortable with.
Well, I mean, I grew up in a very religious Christian home, and so it was always
God, a
male God, and a male son of God. And that's who I talked to. That's who I asked for. And the more I went down my healing journey as a woman, if you have a disconnect or I don't know if it's a block with your earthly father, your heavenly father is going to, like, if you're not daddy's girl with your mortal dad, you're not going to feel that love. I'll speak from my experience. I didn't feel that love from my heavenly father, right? And I didn't consciously go out and go, well, he sucks, right? I'm going to go find my mom. No, it wasn't like that. I felt personally, with what has happened in my life, at times very forgotten. I knew at a deep level I was loved, but it didn't connect. It wasn't this beautiful thing. So I had to go out because I was so hopeless, especially when you feel hopeless and then you are reaching out to a God that then becomes hopeless. It's so dark. So I had to find something else that brought me some kind of light, some kind of joy. And I went full nature. I mean, nature was so... And it's the grass. Cool. To me, when I lay in grass, and I didn't know consciously, I was seeking more of that nurturing mother wound or that mother love, And so it was laying in the grass and feeling held by her, because I wasn't raised with a heavenly father and a heavenly mother. I know that existed, but we didn't talk about it. So that's not where I went. I didn't go up. I went down, more the roots. And to me, it became more of a search for a tangible feeling, not an intellectualized God.
Yeah.
It was more of, I've got to find this love and this light in my heart, And so it was definitely a completely, so when you live 40 years and then the last 5 years trying to seek truth in another way, because the other way just kind of went dark for me. So I was desperate. I was looking for it anywhere, and I found it.
Yeah, they call this the distorted God. When it's really powerful what you're saying. You said a lot of good things, but they call this the distorted God, where it's a lot of people that I've met with, they don't realize that, but if they've had an abusive father or a father that they couldn't rely on, or just a really difficult father, like, that very often affects their connection with a higher power, God. And so it's super fascinating. We'll probably talk more about that.
Yeah. And I mean, Dad, if you're listening, I love you. I love my dad, right? My dad's still alive. My dad's been there my whole life, but we do not have a super close relationship. So that was never modeled to me to have a super close relationship, especially with this mystical, magical, God I'm supposed to have. And when you've prayed and when you've asked for hope so much that it hasn't come, you eventually, after so many years, go, I got to try something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a really fun journey. But yeah, truth is truth, though. Just
Truth
comes
is-
in different forms.
Truth is truth.
And you just find it in different ways. And it's really exciting.
There's some real, we're going to talk more about this too, but nature is extremely sensitive and aware of what you are going through. And there's a real companionship, a real connection, a real healing that can come through that, at least the start of it for many people. And I've experienced that personally too. So short answer, nature.
Right.
Nature. So that's beautiful.
Well, God created it, so he's in it. I mean, he, she, whoever. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So water. I mean, let's go there. Oh, we can go through all the elements.
Right.
Let's get weird.
Right. Let's get weird. It sounds weird to people that haven't experienced it.
Right.
But once you're open to it, and for example, you touch a tree and you're really open to feeling that tree on a spiritual plane. It's, again, it sounds weird, but there's something there.
Oh, for sure.
There's something there. And with water and like you said, all the elements. So
that's where I went. I had to go and find it, just back to the basics. So it's an ongoing journey, and to come from such a religious background and to have believed so strongly that this was the only way and this was this, it was almost interesting to watch myself, judge myself. Like, what are you doing all these other things? Like, there's only one true truth. And yet it was such a great unfolding. And when you can find the light and the peace, when you're not finding in the place that you always would go to, what do? Curl up and die? No, you keep seeking. And then you realize years later at this whole path that where you found all these beautiful things that you would have never found if you would have just stayed at that one place. It doesn't discard that one place or the truth of that place. It's just so.
Okay, so this is really good. So what does somebody do when, let's say, they just are really turned off to the idea of God and they don't believe in God, but they're sad and they're consumed with the sadness, and they're open and willing to feel it, which is the softening. And so just that is going to start to help you to become more open to other forms of influence, nature, other people. It creates an openness. And what the steps that I'm going to talk about, hope, are more geared to somebody that's ready to have a direct experience, a really direct and powerful experience. But with that, it does seem to be necessary for you to have a belief in a higher power.
Well, I mean, when you said that, I had just a little picture come into my mind where I didn't believe in anything anymore. I was like, there's no angels, there's no God, there is no one out there to help me. If there was, I've been sending out so many SOSs, so many prayers, like, unless I'm mute and no one can hear me, like, I had gotten to the point where, okay, fine, let me accept that there is nothing. I don't believe that now, but at the time, there must be nothing then. This is just it. And so what I had to do is actually, if there's no one outside of me and I have no hope, I had to actually believe in me. And I have to be like, okay, in this moment, I am ready to be done. Like, truly done, truly at my wit's end. And I had to dig so deep and be like, okay, if there's no one else out there coming to get me, if there's no one else that's going to do this but me, I had to reconnect with me. And like, remember in moments where I did, I mean, you look back at all your bad days, you're still here. You made it through. Like, okay, so I went through this really hard thing as a child or as a young married mom, and I'm still here. So I know I have this resilience. I know. And I had to then really count on me to pull myself out because I didn't believe in anyone else. I had lost faith in anyone else to help me, to love me, to anything. And so I just had to go back to answer your question. Like, that's when I think you really figure out who you are and what you're made of, if you have that belief that there's no one else. Thank goodness I don't believe that anymore.
Right.
Whew. so much easier to believe that you've got people watching and having your back.
Yep. Okay, let's take a little break. Okay, so sadness still.
Oh, I'm drowning.
So we were just talking about this on the break, but so people that are not open to spirituality, they have a really difficult time overcoming sadness.
Okay, that's profound. That makes sense.
You have to be open and ideally get to a place where you have where it feels comfortable for you to take a pretty direct approach. Because when we feel sad, if we want a simple and direct answer, we have to be able to ask a simple and direct question. And so step 1 is asking the right question. Step 2 is step 1 is creating the right question. Step 2 would be asking it, if you believe in God, or directing it at a higher power than prayer, or doing that in some form of meditation or something. And then the third step is to pay attention to how you feel. So we've been talking a decent amount about, we're going to talk more about negative feelings and how they all mean something. But what about positive emotions? What about feelings like peace and like feeling good and feeling like comfort? What do emotions like that mean?
That you're not sad. You're the opposite of sad. I guess those are, that's hopeful. That's where you want to be. You want those hopeful emotions. I'm sorry. I'm like totally stuck on what you just said at the beginning. Like I'm just still.
Let's process that for a second.
Well, no. Will you repeat what you just said about
people that are not open to spirituality? They have a really difficult time overcoming sadness.
So sorry. When you said that, everything stopped for me. And I went fully into years ago when I had left the religion. I mean, stepped away, was like, all right, I don't believe in any of this. And I went more depressed in my whole life. And I didn't understand why I was so depressed. And I'd had other friends that had left and they were like, I'm so happy. I'm so free. This is the greatest thing. And I was miserable. And no one understood why we all got off one boat on another boat and everyone's having a great time and I'm tanked. And I didn't realize that I had not just killed that religion, I had killed my spirituality. And so when you said that, I was like, just had a huge connection of and that's whatever religion and spirituality, we all know are very, very different.
Yep.
But I threw it all out.
And yep.
I was like, I've been lied to. The whole thing, everything went out. And I think I told you this up at the retreat. I was like, oh no, I crucified everyone. Like I had to bring it all back.
Right.
And so I just did not make that connection that when you have no spirituality, it's really hard. It was just a huge thing for me just now. So I'm just like, you just went on and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so and I had to create it myself, right? Like you said, through other venues, but that's when the hope and the joy and the better feelings came back when it's like I killed my spirit. That's so sad.
It is. Yeah.
So yeah. Don't kill your spirit, people. Don't do what I did.
Yeah. So finding hope is really a spiritual dude. So the goal is you are asking a question and putting yourself in a position to feel. So let's talk about these, going back to that question, what does it mean when we feel these positive emotions, feelings like peace, goodness,
does it mean
comfort?
It's truth?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, this is a confirmation. These are good things.
Yep. It's so important to highlight, like, these emotions are very, very discounted in our culture, probably universal culture at large. And what I mean by that is because these emotions cannot be manufactured. Peace and comfort can only arrive on the scene when something is actually good and true. Okay. I can't be like smoking cigars with women on a Wednesday night when my wife's at home with the kids and feel this like peace and comfort. That's just a funny visual.
It's like, wait, I can't even picture that.
But my point is like there's a huge difference between like pleasure and
right.
And these spirit.
So true.
Right. So
and yeah,
these emotions are very powerful when they happen. They really like. There's this in Middle Eastern spirituality. There's a word that they use, or that's popular in their culture. It's called maktub. And what that word means is it means it is written. And so when we have any feelings of peace or comfort, back up us asking a question and we'll talk about the form of the answer, but those emotions, it is written, like it will happen. Whatever answer you get that's backed up with peace or with like, it is truth, period. And that gets discounted a lot, but those, So some of this obviously takes personal experience, is it really, it seems pretty like naive or risky for me to really hang my hat, like to go all in on this one or two experiences I've had of when I felt peace, but do it, see what happens. Your life starts to change. And anytime you feel that objectively, you start to, I guess in religion, they call that faith. Your faith starts to grow in the process. So it's a beautiful thing.
I love that. You can't manufacture it. You can't, people try to.
They try to all the time. They
try to sell you, oh, this is peace. Oh, this is love. This is truth. And there's this disconnect in your gut. You're like, wait, it is?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I love that.
This is what Jesus said when he said, what does it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world, but lose his own soul? What can a man give in exchange for his soul? So the counterfeit peace, the counterfeit joy, the counterfeit, it's like the world we live in. It's TikTok, it's just everywhere. So sadness is great, doesn't feel great, but it can lead to this beautiful hope and truth of a glimpse of your future, basically, to turn things around for you. So yes, maybe one other thing to share on that, but any other thoughts or questions?
Well, it's just like what you said before, and I'm going to get it wrong, but quote the thing about when you said the past, the now, and the future, whatever that one was.
Oh, truth is things as they were, things as they are right now, and then things as they will be.
Okay, so I see that. I replace that with like, we are as we were, as we are, and as we will be. And so when you're in that hopeless place, if there is that future that already, right, we're infinite, all three things, you could hopefully tap into that. Okay, right now sucks so bad. This is so hard.
So sad.
Right? Yet somehow pivot just that little bit and kind of tap into that future of knowing that it won't always be like this. Because you look at your past, you look at now, and then you look over there, and it's like, I love that visual of those three parts. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's
cool to visualize it. So what's interesting, what happens for people is, well, let me say this first, is that, no, I'm not supposed to. So here's what happens for people is they get a little afraid. They're like, they start to believe that they can actually get an answer to their question. Like, am I going to go to Italy with this girl? And am I going to marry this girl? So I don't know if I want to ask those questions, because what if the answer is no?
For sure.
So I'm just going to not, because I don't want to get a bad answer. And this is the good news, is that is the evil or the thoughts, the intellect trying to convince you to not find hope. And And the reason why it's guaranteed that the answer is going to be better is because it's like better than your current circumstance, because the way your current whatever. Okay. So in my situation, I was feeling really sad about my girlfriend. And in that situation, I was feeling like, wow, is this just how it's going to be? The sadness is like projecting of like, wow, this is over. Right. And so, meaning that if I seek hope, the answer has to be better than my current view of things. It can't be worse, because otherwise I wouldn't be feeling sad. And so I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe a better way to describe it is hope is always better than your current view or your current state of sadness. Always better. Now, doesn't mean you're always going to hear everything that you want, but it's better than, where you're currently at. So that fear is not based in understanding that hope is the good news that God wants to give you, that like, hey, I want to show you that your life is going to be better than what you're currently thinking it is or where you're currently at. Like, I want to give you that gift. So just come knock on my door and I want to show you. So yeah, so that's.
So what was your answer?
Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I'm dying.
Should we talk about that?
Yes, okay. I need to know. And you're scared. You're like, I don't want to, because I don't want to get a no. Like you didn't want to ask. Because if it was a no, or were you like, I need it to be a no so then I can move on? Where were you at in that moment?
I didn't struggle with that in my personal experience.
Okay.
But I was just using that as an example. But what really happened in the story was I went up to my room and I said a prayer and I asked those questions. Like, well, I felt sad first. I remember feeling sadness, but I'm like, and then I asked those questions like, am I going to marry this girl? And are we going to go to Italy? And this goes back to our last podcast, really important to be focused and in this space of stillness when we ask those questions. And then what happened for me is I felt this joy deep in my body. And the words that emerged from that were, yes, you're going to go to Italy and it's going to be a really great time. And you're going to marry this person. And I was like, my friend heard about what happened, that we broke up. And he's like, dude, are you okay? And my demeanor was like pretty happy. He's like, what the heck? Like, what is going on with you? And I told him about my experience. And he said something really interesting. He said, if this doesn't happen, is this going to shake your faith? And I said, 1000%. Because I had the positive emotion back up the words that came up for me from this place of stillness. I knew it was the truth. So it was really interesting, right? Because the next day we're broken up, and for the next few days we're broken up, and I'm like sitting back, just waiting to see what I'm like. It's going to be really interesting to see how this unfolds. She starts texting me randomly 3 days later, and we start hanging out a little bit. No, we never even talked about what happened. We just start hanging out because I already knew what was going to happen.
Oh, God.
And then we go to Italy, and then, we get back together, and then we get married, and we have 2 kids.
And a baby on the way?
And a baby on the way.
No way.
So
I didn't know that story.
So people go through way more devastating moments of sadness than that. And I think just going back to what you said, the importance of staying open spiritually and being willing to try things out. And this direct approach of asking the right questions, doing that in prayer, meditation. And then I think visualization is a really powerful way to get answers. I'm a big fan of that because that is not easy, but that is a way to be still and create a really intimate moment with God, with Christ, with your best friend, with whoever you need to talk to, the mountain, whoever. And it sounds kind of weird because you're creating the experience, but it's amazing how real that is and how real that is. And the words that come from that and the positive feelings that potentially come from that are powerful. And that's what hope is. That's deeper hope. So any other thoughts, my friend? Questions on the whole hope, sadness
So if
topic?
you could pick a part of your body where you feel hope, is it like in your heart, in your gut, in your mind? Is it in all of them? Like if someone's still not understanding, like, wait, I've never felt hope. Like
what I would say to someone is be open to approach a higher power, and even start after you ask the question and you're done with your meditation or you're done with your prayer or whatever. Try to imagine, like try to create that visual of talking to whoever you're imagining. And you can even start off by them saying things that you want to hear. Like, so start off by even saying things that like, what do I want to hear from them? You just starting there. And if you have any positive feelings that back up what you're wanting to hear, that's truth. That's truth. Remember, these positive feelings can only arrive on the scene when something is like true. So it takes some practice on kind of, like you said, trusting yourself and being willing to experiment a little bit. But yeah.
Okay, but I've got a question. Maybe you're going to hate me for asking this question. But when you have positive feelings about somebody, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with them. You're thinking this is truth. And they're like, dude, they're a psycho. So I'm kind of like, wait, that doesn't add up all the time. When you're having positive feelings, it doesn't mean it's truth. Like, I really think I'm going to get this job. No, you don't. Right?
Yeah.
So
I think
not to kibosh what you're saying, because I know what you're saying
is great. So I think there's something, let me be still with that just for a second so I don't rush an answer. I think the key is seeking. When you're still and you're seeking an answer, when you're in that space and you feel the love or the peace, I'd say, the comfort, the love, the peace. I think that's the key, is being intentional about going into that space. Example, one of my good friends got cancer last year, and she had it for a while. She was battling it. And I wanted so much for her to make it through it. And so I was having these moments where I was like feeling really optimistic and feeling really, quote, good that she was going to live. And I had this experience of feeling good that she was going to live for like a dozen times. And then she unexpectedly passed away. And it was really a spiritually humbling experience for me. And I believe it was meant to go that way. So what I really learned from that was the importance of not mixing up my own optimism and what I wanted with the actual truth. And so the challenge with this is we have to make sure our desire is pure. The reason why I wanted her to live was for a selfish desire. She was doing this retreat with me, and I was concerned about money, and I was concerned about people being disappointed that I already committed because they wanted her to be there. And so like regretfully and like shamefully to some degree, that was like why I wanted to know if she was going to live more than anything. I obviously loved and cared about her, but that was, so my desire was not pure. And so when it comes from a place of sadness and we're really seeking hope, our desire is usually pretty pure. And that is a great space to receive answers from. So yeah.
Thanks for answering that.
So I think your desire, you have to really check, like, am I wanting this for the right reason, truly? And am I really being still and creating the space to seek it? Going back to your example of like love, feeling love for someone in a relationship, like we can love many people. We can love people that are not good for us. We can love people that are good for us.
Yeah.
Love doesn't mean that I should date this person or marry this person. Love just means I'm seeing the good in this other person and I care about them. So we misinterpret, love a lot as just going back to your example.
That's what I was getting at. And as you were talking about that experience, the word that came to my mind was like, you have to surrender. There is such a vulnerable surrendering of, like you said, am I getting in my own way? Is this my own selfish desire? Is this just what I want? Maybe not what's best for everyone or her or whoever. And so to be able to truly get out of your own way to really get that answer, because like you said, these other feelings will feel good, but does that mean it's truth? If we can tap into it's like that, thy will be done. Like it's not mine. This is so much bigger than me. If we're saying we believe in something bigger than us, there's also something bigger than our desires, and to be able to step out and realize and to see that, to see that truth.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Amen.
Right.
That's great. That's great. Any other final thoughts on the whole sadness, hope I think it was a good, thorough chat on sadness.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I didn't know that whole ask questions part. What would I need to hear in this moment? That's huge.
Yeah, what question can I ask that if I got an answer to would really turn this around for me?
Right. Because if I could ask that, I'd be like, is this always going to feel like this? And you just hear this beautiful, absolutely not. You'd be like, oh, okay, I can get up now. Just right there, I've never done that. You didn't tell me to do that part.
Do that. Do that and report back.
I'll do that one next time. I'll be sad in 6 hours, so I'll let you know. No, but I actually do feel better. Just cool. In 2 weeks' time.
Cool.
I definitely feel a lighter, and it's a choice, the sadness comes in. I'm like, hey, we're done with you. It's all good.
Well, if it comes back up, it means there's more hope. It always is going to mean there's more hope that you can.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, no, I like that too.
Yeah. So there's more glimpses of your future and specifics that you're going to be privy to. So I feel like God for me is like, I need to stop having sad things happen to Corey because he already knows so much about his future. No, but it's just a beautiful, we are, all of us are meant to know about our future. I'll finish by sharing this. This is a beautiful, I think, way to sum up what we're talking about. So during World War II, there was in one of the concentration camps, there was one of the Jewish men in the concentration camps. He had a dream that on Christmas Day, that the Allies were going to come in and break down the walls and free them from their situation. And this man was really respected and revered as just people respected him and they valued him. And so he told a few people about his dream that he had, that on Christmas Day that they were going to be freed. So the rumor spread like wildfire throughout the camp. And so many people believed that they were going to be freed on Christmas Day. So what happened is Christmas Day came and Christmas Day went and they were not freed. And the next day or two after Christmas Day, I think it was in 1940, I can't remember the year. It's towards the end. The next day or two after Christmas Day, they recorded the most amount of deaths in that concentration camp, and nothing had changed. No, they weren't getting less food, right? So without hope, we can actually die of hopelessness.
Yeah, we can.
And there's another beautiful statement in the Bible that says, without hope, people perish. And there's a lot of truth to that. So part of all of our purpose in our life is embracing sadness so that we can find the hope that we need. And yeah, it's the good news. There's hope on the other end every single time if we seek it.
That's super good stuff right there. And I think that's why you're such a wonderful friend and therapist because you help people see hope. You really do.
I try to.
No, you really do.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, you come in and you see people you have a beautiful gift to be able to see people in their highest, not in their lowest. And then they also want to step into that because you see them there and you cheer them on to be there.
Well, thanks, my friend. I appreciate that. It's
true.
Okay, well, let's move on a little bit. Anything else you wanted to share on sadness, hope?
Nope.
Okay, so we put now let's go back to the emotional balance part of the natural order.
The natural order of healing.
So sometimes sadness will be a part of the balance. What I've seen sometimes is like, sometimes people need to pursue sadness and hope so they can have the motivation they need. They kind of get a little bit of a boost of like, oh, this is actually going to be worth it for me to go through this difficult emotional journey that I have to face, or this difficult journey in life I have to face. So sometimes sadness is part of the emotional balance, but often it's a little bit deeper. So, okay, let's talk about like somebody is struggling and they want to start feeling better. Where do they start? So there's a few emotions that we're going to highlight specifically that are really important to address first to achieve more emotional balance before you go into some of the harder stuff. So let's just start with overwhelm, since you brought that up before. So there is the emotional category of like frustration. Okay, so frustration covers quite a bit of ground. Frustration, interesting enough, like stress is actually in that category. When we feel stressed, that's actually a form of frustration. Irritability, feeling irritated by things is obviously frustration. And then overwhelmed is kind of like more severe frustration, basically.
You blew your gasket.
Yeah. I love the car analogy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like,
you're done.
Going off that, it's like frustration is maybe like the gaslight going on, saying like, hey, you have 30 miles before you run out of gas.
Right.
And if you don't fill up your tank, or you don't listen to that, then you're going to break down. And that's what overwhelmed is. The burnout, you call it. All of these emotions mean the same thing: overwhelmed, frustration, stress, irritability, irritation. They all mean that I'm experiencing a personal imbalance in my life. Often there's too much going out and there's not enough coming back in. Okay, so I'm burning too much gas and I'm not filling up enough in the tank. So that is the message. That's pretty general. It's meant to be general so that you at least have a starting point to like, okay, now I gotta start having more balance in my life. And often the best question to ask yourself is like, if I'm feeling imbalanced in my life, I'm feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, one of the best places to start is, what are some good things I'm doing for myself currently? Do I have am I taking personal time for myself? And specifically in that personal time, do I have some physical activity that I'm doing? Am I getting some exercise, as an example? And then a spiritual practice. So think about it. There's two parts of us. We have our physical body, and then we have our spiritual body. Both of them need to be being taken care of consistently for that car to keep running and to operate at the way it needs to for us to be high functioning.
Right. But you have to be able to value yourself, to be able to take the time for yourself, to be able to do these things.
So here's the challenge with that is it doesn't even, we're talking about like the very beginning starting point. It doesn't necessarily even matter if you value yourself, if you're just able to start. Because if you're overwhelmed, we'll say this, if you're overwhelmed, but you're also feeling shame and you're also feeling anger and there's a bunch of other stuff, you have to address the overwhelmed first, because you don't have the energy to value yourself.
I get that.
You don't have the energy so it's like you have to.
It's like the chicken and the egg. It's like, because once you figure out I'm getting to overwhelm because I'm not
valuing
yes.
This. Yeah.
Right. And so you're just almost just running yourself in. At least that was my experience.
Right.
Because the more I learned to appreciate and love and generate that self-love, I could get out of all those other things a lot quicker.
100%. Yeah, that's well said. So don't get too stuck on the routine of it. Like, yes, daily is the goal, but if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're like, okay, I'm going to just 15 minutes of, heck, even just like 5 minutes of like going on a walk, or like 10 minutes of like trying to like read something that have a spiritual nature, a meaningful nature or something. That's great. Your body, your spirit will recognize the intention. And even if you're not doing it perfectly, you'll begin to feel the benefits of not feeling as overwhelmed.
I agree.
So that's the cool part about it. Too many people get stuck on like, oh, it's, anyways, the regimen of it. So that's the first thing to look at, is just like, what am I currently doing any good things for myself? If you're not, start there. If you are doing that, but you're still feeling overwhelmed or you're still feeling pretty frustrated, most likely it means that you're investing too much energy into things and you're not getting a good return back. Mm-hmm. It's like going to the bank and saying like, hey, here's $100. Can you break this up and give me $250s? And they only give you back $150. Okay. And then you give them the 50 and then they give you back $20. We're investing emotional energy into things that often relationships. And then we're experiencing this frustration or overwhelm because we're just investing too much. So it's good to that would be the second thing you want to start taking a look at. So I think that, any other thoughts on that for now?
No, I just think it's amazing what you can shift in just a few minutes.
100%. It's more of the intention of it,
right,
than it is the actual result
or the thing you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like that self-awareness, like, oh, I'm the observer now. I recognize I am out of control. Mm-hmm. I need just a second. Like you do it right here on the podcast, like just a second. Just need to pause. Like it's just a pause. It's not this big rigmarole thing. It's just pause. Rigmarole. Like people like have to go, oh, now I gotta pull out my yoga mat and light on. No, you don't. Take 5 deep breaths. It's like just, at least I'm talking to myself, right? My kids are like, yeah, when do you do that, Mom? She's a liar.
Dane, I feel like we should check in with you, my man. Any percolating thoughts or questions coming up for you as we're talking about all this stuff?
I guess I do have one thought. I appreciate I think the act of doing is like just underestimated, like the power of just like motion and movement.
Yep.
So I hurt my back a while ago. As you know, I herniated a disc, and like all the best chiropractors, all they say, I always ask for advice. Like, what should I do? I want like a regimen. And they're like, movement is your best friend. And I almost feel like that's like, there's movement in your body, of course, but then there's that spiritual movement that
for sure.
It's so easy to like forget about that as well. So those two are inseparably connected. So I just, that thought came to my mind.
That's a deep.
Yeah, I was going to say, he just like dropped a bomb over there.
That's what he does. That's a deep and true principle that I think applies to almost everything, especially emotion.
It's emotion.
Ooh.
In motion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And when you get sad, you're stuck. Most likely when you're sad and hopeless, you are not moving.
Nope.
You are stuck in your own story, your own sadness, in the situation. And there's like, Dane just killed it.
Well, and it's like, it makes sense why people try to deal with all emotions through physical movement. And it's like, that's fine, but there's emotional motion needed when it comes to sadness. Like we've been talking about, you need to seek the hope. That's the motion. Dane hurt his back. Okay, that's obviously more physical. You gotta, so It's cool. Thanks, Dane.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be checking in with you again here soon, my man. Okay, let's talk about anxiety now. We're going to cover frustration. We already in that category. We just did that. Some of the other key. We're going to also talk about anxiety and shame, because those are other common ones that are part of the emotional balance. Okay, so let's talk about anxiety for a second.
It's the worst.
Yeah, anxiety sucks.
It sucks so bad. Do you deal with anxiety? You don't.
I avoid most things. I'm totally kidding. Yeah, it's really rewarding. Let's talk about it.
I haven't ever really seen you anxious. I mean, given I don't see you that often, but that's not something I would describe you as.
I used to be.
Really?
Yeah. Quite a bit. It was a big struggle in my 20s for sure, and before then as well. So let's talk about it. So anxiety, unless you're experiencing live danger, anxiety is either going to come from how you're thinking, thoughts, or anxiety is going to come up as in the form of a trigger. Okay, so let's sit with that for a second, because we talked about this a little bit, but what's still so commonly preached among the experts is that anxiety is the fight or flight response. And it's like, I get it, but they're still in the framework that they're still interpreting anxiety as if it means that you're in danger somehow, and that it's just an archaic, it's a 2,000 years ago truth. 99.9% of the time when we feel anxiety, it is not our body telling us that we're in live danger. It's our spirit, our true self, trying to tell us we're either viewing something in a way that's false, or it's a trigger. It's the anxiety is basically telling us that there's some pain down there that we still need to look at. It's one of those two. I think we talked quite a bit already about anxiety that's coming from thoughts, the importance of like challenging it and like kind of identify just quickly the 3 steps to deal with anxiety that's coming from thoughts. If you're thinking and then you start to feel anxious, is you want to try to identify the negative belief. For example, I could have a thought right now that says like, Corey, you're going to get in a car crash and you're going to die after this podcast, when you're driving home. So, okay, if I believe that, if I hold on to that, I'm going to start feeling anxiety. That is my spirit trying to tell me that, Corey, the way that you're viewing this it doesn't check out. There's no evidence that supports that this is actually going to happen. So what does that mean? It means that it's just a thought. It doesn't mean anything. So let's talk about that. Let's slow it down for a second. Do we control the thoughts that come into our mind?
No,
we do not. I promise.
Right, I promise.
I promise we do not.
Sicko.
Now, what thoughts have you had this last week, Kimberly?
No, like that's how I finally believed that they weren't mine, because they would be so dark. I'm like, that's not me.
That's not
I would not think of something so horrific that it finally made me believe like these aren't real. Because I used to think they were all like, that's me. No, it's not. You got a bully in there. You got there's all kinds of, at least in my lovely little brain, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you believe, if you believe that that's Satan, if you believe that that's like negative energy, the reason why I believe that there's a real specific evil influence like Satan is because some of these thoughts are so perfectly timed. Some of these thoughts are so specific to me and my situation that I just don't believe that they're negative thoughts floating around, and they just time it so perfectly that they come in and interrupt my relationship with my wife or my focus when I'm with someone. So regardless of what you believe, though, it's so important to recognize that you do not, like, you can create thoughts. Obviously, we have the power to do that, but most thoughts do not come from us. So going back to anxiety, if a thought has no evidence behind it, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just a thought coming from a negative place. Okay, so identify the negative belief, challenge the thought, like, is there any evidence? And then, so it takes a little bit of processing. Any other thought? We've talked about that a little bit already.
Yeah.
But any other thoughts?
Because you talked about you can't trust your thoughts, but you can trust your emotions. That's what we talked about in the first one, I thought.
Yep. So anxiety always tells the truth. So you feel anxious, there must be, and if it's coming from how you're thinking, there must be something about how there must be some way I'm thinking that is not based in reality or truth. Otherwise I wouldn't be feeling anxious. Okay. Goes back to the whole like lie detector thing. Like your spirit is made up of truth. So it's like a lie detector. So if thoughts are entering in that are not true, the lie detector goes off. And so that your spirit is actually the one that's producing the anxiety to try to say, hey dude, false view type of thing. So that one takes some practice for sure, but I don't have any other thoughts on that for now, unless you do.
Yeah, that one's a hard one for me. I am not in a place where like, yeah, I did that in my 20s. No, I'm like, do it 5 minutes ago. Anxiety is something that, as much as I try to study it, work on it, it is so there for me.
What do you think is what's like the hardest part of it for you?
It's it's for me personally, I'm really trying to develop my own intuition, my own self-trust. And so it feels like I have this completely opposite force that's like going against that. So I never really know, is this my fear? Is this my intuition? I mean, that we talked about this before. It's a constant battle for me. Like, is this my own thoughts? I feel like I'm deceiving. To feel like you're deceiving yourself is like the worst thing. And yet we do it all the time. So when you're really a truth, I believe I'm really trying to seek truth and light and a lot of stuff. And then this negative force, this negative energy comes in and I'm like, is this something trying to protect me? Or is this my own thoughts? Like it's a constant battle for me to not know what to trust.
That's going to be a little deeper than what we're talking about. That's going to be that probably is perhaps something more spiritual in nature. So we should chat more about that for sure.
We'll take that offline.
We'll take that offline.
But I get what you're saying.
Cool.
Like, yeah.
I think the thing, so that one is like more surface. Like when it gets really difficult is when anxiety comes up strongly, kind of out of nowhere. And this may be what you're talking about a little bit. And this is more of the trigger, anxiety.
Yeah.
Which means, example, 10 years ago, I had a really sad and traumatic thing happen, and it's never been fully resolved. So when it reemerges, it doesn't come up in the form of sadness. It comes up with anxiety at the forefront as a mask. And then behind the anxiety is the pain.
I get that. So it's like PTSD a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have anxiety so how, we should talk about this for a second. How can somebody tell the difference between anxiety coming from thoughts versus the anxiety coming up as a trigger?
Oh, you feel the trigger in your body. It's a somatic thing. It's not just in your head. You physically get sick. You start shaking. You start crying. To me, it's not just my mind is racing.
Very well said.
Because, as we know, the body keeps the score. So we've got all this stuff that has happened to us. And then subconsciously it's coming out. It's coming from who knows where. Like you think, it's coming from a negative force. No, this is coming from a past experience. It's in you. You know what I mean? It's not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have to deal with it. And you're like, wait, you feel like you're going crazy because you don't know this is a whole nother topic about PTSD, right? You don't know if it's 2024 or if it's 1980 because you're feeling this and you're like, but it shows up as anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole nother, that's like 2-hour talk next time, talking about working through that.
For sure. So you hit the nail on the head. The textbook, the two best ways to tell the difference is when anxiety comes up as a trigger, there's a suddenness to it and there's an intensity to it versus thoughts. When anxiety is coming from thoughts, there might be a couple thoughts, a few thoughts, and it kind of is a little bit slower to build. We still, in that case, we'll feel the anxiety in our body, but it just won't be as intense. And it won't be as sudden. It's a little bit more of a slower roll type of thing.
Yeah, it kind of, for me, how would I describe it? If it's thoughts, it kind of comes in slow, it like sneaks in and then it loops.
Yes.
And it marinates, right? It just kind of, you get stuck in this loop. Whereas if it's in your body, it's like a punch in the throat.
That's such a beautiful way to describe it. I'm serious.
Is it?
That's exactly what I've experienced. I think a lot of people can connect to that. It comes from out. And this is the other reason why I'm very confident and take spirituality or religion out of it or whatever. It's like, just from a psychology perspective, if you're really paying attention to the somatics of your body, you can sense a thought coming from somewhere external.
Because you say, where'd that come from?
Coming in.
Yeah, you literally say that.
And then circulating and becoming cyclical, and then the anxiety starts to build. Yeah, so cool.
So how do you get out of the loop when you're in it? And you recognize, you're like, okay, I get it. This does not come from me. It's there. It's looping. You're getting still. Maybe you're asking for it to go. You're doing, and it's just like, what do you suggest?
You can't solve the problem with the same thinking that created it in the first place. So you don't want to necessarily try to resolve it right there in the moment. If you've caught it early, you can try to do that. But if you're at work and you're feeling anxious because of thoughts or from a trigger, visualize, almost recognize that anxiety is your true self or a good friend knocking on your door, trying to give you an important message. You definitely want to open the door and say, hey, anxiety, I know, thanks for coming to visit. I know you're trying to tell me something important. Perhaps I'm viewing something wrong or there's something I need to look at. But let's chat later. And your anxiety at first is going to be like, I don't know if I can really trust this person. But as you put it on the shelf and really keep that a point with yourself, you build this trust with yourself. Your anxiety will be like, oh, Kimberly,
I love that.
The last few times has kept her word. She did what she said she was going to do. So I can go away for now. I'll just, we're going to talk. They're like, oh, it's stoked about it. Like, we're going to talk later. Like, it's all good. So that's the recommendation, is open the door, tell it that you are not able to talk right now and that you're going to visit late. And then you got to keep that appointment with yourself. And then that's when you do what we're talking about, which is, if it's from thoughts, you have to go through those steps of trying to recognize what beliefs you were holding on to and then processing it a little bit. If it's a trigger, then you need to reflect on what pain is underneath this anxiety. What pain do I still need to work through and figure out? And you might still be in a state where you're overwhelmed and you have a lot of stuff going on. So it doesn't mean you necessarily need to dive into it and feel it and try to work through it. Then you're just building the awareness on what it is, what I have. I still have some dad stuff. Okay, that's good to know. And you reflect on that and get a good idea. What the anxiety is doing, what the triggers are doing, is it's your body trying to prepare you so that when you are ready to do the deeper work, the phase 2 of the natural order, that you don't get to phase 2 and you're like, okay, deeper work. What do I even have to work on? You already know. You're already like, I clearly know it's like some dad stuff. I already know it's this. And so you're ready. So the value of listening to triggers and taking time to reflect on them, it's your body preparing you to let go when the waters are calm.
Back to what we started talking about at the beginning of this, you cannot do this work unless you are in a state of, what would you call that? Stillness? I mean, maybe not even stillness, just neutral, right?
And it doesn't even have to be perfect. It just like some decent emotional balance. Like the tree, you have to be a little bit grounded.
Right.
You can't be being tossed by the wind everywhere because the roots are flying out and you're not getting actually you're not getting fed. You got to be somewhat grounded for sure. So cool. Let's finish up maybe by chatting about shame for a second. Any other thoughts on anxiety?
Sucks.
I'm
looking forward to the day that I'm like, oh yeah, I dealt with that in my 40s, my 30s. I'm totally zen now. I'm going to get to where you're at, Corey.
Stay tuned. I'm not there. It's a process.
No, my bestie does not deal with anxiety. She just is not her thing. She's like, that's the stupidest thing. Like, it doesn't even like hit her. And she just watches me just like flailing in it. And she can't, she's just like, but why do you let yourself, what is this serving you? And it's so clear to her. So I know it's possible. I have close people in my life that just don't even play in that sandbox. You know what I mean? I'm in there building sandcastles, like, and it's so interesting. So I do have hope that there's got to be a way.
Oh, there is.
Because even like taking anti-anxiety medicine, oh, it's still there. Do you know what I mean? I have yet to find. So I'm gonna take what you say. I'm gonna really try these things. Really try these things out.
Let's talk about the power of awareness with anxiety and what you just said. So the evolution of completely overcoming anxiety. And I would say I'm not there yet, but it is, I do believe, possible for you to experience like little to no anxiety in your life for sure. And so that's the goal for all of us. So, okay. So let's say, the power of awareness in starting to deal with anxiety.
Oh, I know when I'm in it.
Is really cool.
Yeah. It's 3 a.m. I'm Googling. I have 8 different cancers. I mean, we're fully in it, and I can step out and go, girl, we're in this. And it's like, I am off to the races.
So let me tell you what I mean by the power. You know when it happens.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. But
so let me tell you what I mean, though.
Okay.
And maybe there's probably a better term for it than a power of awareness for it. But okay, so let's say that you have anxiety at 3 a.m. and you're like, you can't deal with it in the moment. So you put it on the shelf and you revisit it. So the power of awareness in eliminating anxiety, and this also applies to shame and other emotions, is you start to become, okay, so you check in with it, and then like, well, let me ask you this. When you feel anxious, are you aware that you're feeling, how long does 100%. It take you? So you're aware pretty much
I'm aware
right
of all of it. I'm just watching it, milk duds, popcorn, and I am still totally in it, which is even more frustrating because you know exactly what's happening.
So there's the cliche statement, like the truth will set you free. And so the cool thing about developing this practice is if you check in with it and you really find the truth, or you see the deception that's happening.
I like that. You see the deception that's happening.
Then you start to gain this booklet of deceptions. And it's the same thing over and over again. So it's way harder at the beginning because there's nothing in this booklet of truth, and maybe not nothing, but there's not a lot in there maybe. And so you start to see how Satan or this negative source is influencing you and affecting you in your life. And you can literally get to a point, and this is where it completely changes. Instead of the anxiety happening and you becoming aware of it after, you become aware of the thoughts or the untrue thoughts in the very moment that they're about to happen. And it's cool because you don't take the bait. You let it, you're like, oh, interesting. I'm having a thought right now that I'm going to get in a car crash and die. That's funny. I don't even hold on to it. I already see that it's a BS. And we can't be perfect. We're going to hold on to thoughts that are going to cause anxiety at times, and that's okay. But that's why we have the anxiety as a backup if we miss the deception, because then we can be like, oh, the anxiety is trying to tell me that I'm viewing something off. And so I'll just take a look at that. And then it's way harder at first. The progress with anxiety in this practice, it's an exponential curve of upward, like that's way difficult at the beginning, but you start making a little bit of progress and it takes off.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. So that's the cool thing about it.
I just keep picturing Cute Little Anxiety and Inside Out, the movie. She's just trying to help. She's just trying to keep everyone safe. She's just trying to protect everyone. And she's driving everyone crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And yet she has good intentions.
Right.
You know? So
that's great. So let's talk about shame and then we'll wrap up.
Shame.
So shame and anxiety are next door neighbors.
No.
They borrow each other's sugar.
No, they do not. They are not. No way.
There's no emotions that are the most similar than these two. And
Dude, you're going to have to...
I'll explain
Yeah, because I am like, just the anxiety to me is like up here, like, ah, and shame is like so low. Like they're nowhere near each other in my mind. So to tell.
They're so similar. So anxiety, I want to hear that. You're crushing it today on the noise descriptions. So anxiety, when it comes from, so just like anxiety, shame can come from thoughts, and then shame can also come up as a form of a trigger, a mask for pain. So it's the exact same as anxiety. And anxiety that comes from thoughts is a false view of a situation. Shame that comes from thoughts is a false view of self. So just put this into perspective for a second. I can literally be sitting here and I could have a thought that says, Corey, you're going to get in a car crash and you're going to die. Anxiety. 10 seconds later, I can have a thought that says like, Corey, you're blowing it on this podcast. Like you suck. And if I believe that, if I hold on to that, instead of, I'm going to feel shame. It's such a minor difference in the type of thought that I'm holding on to.
But isn't shame so much more detrimental to your spirit?
No.
Like what?
It's not.
Oh, I think shame is like.
Compared to anxiety?
Yes.
I don't know. It's tough to say.
Shame
They're both.
tanks you. Anxiety just like F's with you. But shame like destroy. Like I just see it as just like taking your spirit and just turning it black and crumbling it up. And anxiety just kind of revs you up and gets you distracted and has all this illusion. I guess shame's an illusion too. It doesn't feel so much heavier to you than anxiety.
It's yeah, I definitely think it is heavier, but I think the end result of both when they develop momentum and they when they gain some momentum, they both lead to a strong disconnect from relationships, from God, from ourselves. Like they take over. So shame probably is heavier though, like energetically for sure.
Yeah.
But so they're so similar though. So going back to like false view of self, shame. So you deal with that almost the same way you deal with anxiety that's coming from thoughts. So shame that's thoughts that are causing shame. It's identify the negative belief, and challenging it might be a little bit different because you're looking for more of like it's okay type of a narrative. And like you're looking for a little bit more honesty or compassion. And with anxiety, you're looking for honesty. So we should talk about an example with that. So let's say that I say something rude to you on accident after this podcast, and I'm driving in my car and I'm like, oh, like you're such an idiot. Why did you say that? That's a form of shame that if I don't process, it's gonna take a toll on me, like you said. So, okay, I'm believing I'm an idiot. So identify the negative. I'm believing I'm an idiot because I said this thing to Kimberly. So step 2, for now, I think it's good as a starter, like it's okay. Is it really okay?
No.
If I were to say something rude to you?
So dead to me. We are done.
So let's talk about this for a second. When is it okay is it okay? Like there's way more severe things. We're using such a stupid,
Right.
a dumb example. That's very,
It's not dumb.
well, it's very light maybe, but I really care about you and you're a really close friend to me. So like that probably would weigh on me a little bit. But there's obviously way more severe stuff, but when is it okay when we make a mistake?
In reality, all the time. Right?
Okay. Yes.
I
Okay.
mean, if we're looking at a big thing like
let me
that's,
challenge that then for a second. When is it not okay
yeah.
when we make a mistake? When is it not okay when we make a mistake or don't meet an expectation? When is that not okay?
Yikes.
It's okay when we don't meet an expectation, or it's okay when we make a mistake. When there's two things that make it okay. How am I responding to this? Do I actually care that I made a mistake? Do I want to do better? So it's how do I respond? Am I genuine in wanting to improve? And then the follow through, do I actually make some effort to do that?
Right.
So how do I respond? When is it not okay? It's not okay when we make a mistake, when I don't care, and when I blame other people, and when I put it on them, and when I don't take responsibility for my own part. That's when it's not okay.
Yeah.
Because that leads to a path of darkness and isolation and shame, deep shame. This is this deeper shame you were kind of talking about. Okay. So there's a big difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is our body telling us that what I'm doing is not in line with who I am. So it's an action. It's an action emotion. It leads us to action. But shame doesn't lead us to action. It leads us to wallow and feel really horrible about ourselves and take no action. We just lay in our bed. Right? So I love this definition of shame. Shame is a deeply painful emotion arising from the perception of being flawed or inadequate in one's own eyes.
That's so sad.
It often stems from a feeling of having failed expectations. Shame affects a person's self-worth, making them feel fundamentally wrong or unworthy. And it leads to a desire to withdraw.
Will you send that to me?
Yeah, I wrote that earlier.
No, you didn't.
I'm just kidding.
No, that one's hard to hear, because in my little brain, I think people that feel shame or people that have done horrible things, they're the perpetrators, they're the monsters, and yet no, in that definition, it's like the other side. It's like not the perpetrator, it's the victim that feels so flawed.
I feel like there's something wrong with me. I feel like there's something wrong with me. Yeah.
Oh, that one is hard.
It is a hard one. So that's shame's
feeling. Do you think shame and disappointment are the same? Like the deepest disappointment of.
Yeah. When you put it that way, I think so.
Yeah.
There's nothing morally wrong with not meeting an expectation. All of us should have high expectations in our life. High expectations are good. But when we don't meet them, how do we treat ourselves? That's the key. I have really high expectations for my life all the time. I do my best to meet them, but the pattern of all of our lives is we don't meet them all the time. Like it's a consistent thing. And so it's okay. How am I responding? How am I,
so that's the magic word. It's okay.
I think with shame, what's the negative belief? It's okay, blank. And then you fill in the blank. It's okay because if you want a general one, every situation is going to require a specific, there's not a silver bullet, but it's okay because I'm going to respond well right now and I'm going to try to do better. And it really is okay. Another scripture that's a big fan of in the Bible, man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh at the heart. Man looks at what happened on paper. Corey said something rude to Kimberly. What an a-hole. And that's how I might view myself. Man, we look at the outward appearance or the actions. So another word for it. But God and our higher self, our true self, God, looks at the heart. What am I wanting right now? That's what makes it okay.
Yeah, I tell my kids, it's okay. Welcome to being human.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is a blank one that can kind of, like, that's what we're here to do. We're here to mess things up. We're here to have these hard things. And so I'll just say, so yeah, when that comes in, I'm just like, okay, it's okay. I like that. I need to be taking notes.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do. You're dropping some bombs. I'm loving it.
I actually am extrapolating all this from you.
Oh yeah.
That you already, everything I'm saying is just coming from you.
Telepathically.
Yeah, exactly. And then if shame comes up, so that's shame that comes from thoughts. If shame comes up as a trigger, it's the same thing as anxiety. It means the same thing, that there's some pain down there that you need to look at. I don't know why shame would come up sometimes for some people more so than anxiety. It doesn't necessarily matter. But if it comes up strongly and suddenly when you're not really thinking about much, then, there's some pain down there that you want to put on the shelf for now.
Right.
And then revisit it later and do some reflection.
It's funny because I'm just looking back, like when I'm thinking of maybe having a trigger come up and I go, what do I say? Just innately, I'm saying, it's okay. It's October 11th. What day is it? I don't even know. The 9th?
I don't know.
But I'll tell myself the date and the year because I'm trying to get in the present moment.
Oh, cool.
But I'm trying to tell myself it's okay. And so I didn't even realize I'm doing that.
Oh, you're really good at that, actually, if you didn't know. For sure. It's what makes you, it's a big gift you have for sure. But if it's a trigger, remember, it's good to say it's okay, but a trigger is, the message of a trigger is, hey, there's some pain down there that I want you to look at. Mm-hmm. So important to take a peek at that later.
But do you sometimes, I'll ask that later.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking sometimes with the trigger, is it sometimes, like you said, the anxiety is, he says, what was the delusions you're trying to figure?
Deception, yeah.
The deceptions, right? But sometimes the trigger is kind of deception. It's not what you think it is.
Exactly. The thoughts are convincing you it means something that it really does.
Right. You think
when literally all it means, you're spot on. We put so much emphasis on triggers, like, oh my gosh,
right.
Like something's wrong with me. Why is this happening? It's like, no, it's okay. All it means is that there's some pain down there that you haven't resolved yet. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it's the same thing with a little bit of deception.
100%. So we should talk about this for a second. So that when it gets really tough, obviously, is when I'm having thoughts that are causing shame or anxiety. And then those shameful or anxiety thoughts also bring up a trigger. So we have the bomb.
Welcome to my 3 o'clock. Welcome
to my daily lunch appointment.
Yeah, right?
My daily lunch appointment.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm just visualizing that.
Right.
So that's when you definitely need to be like, whoa, just taking a step back and being aware of what's going on. Like, okay, whoa, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety right now. I'm very confident that, just as a side note, I'm very confident that unless you're in live danger, anxiety always comes from either thoughts or a trigger, period. So you're feeling a lot of anxiety. It can either be one or two of those or both. Regardless, whoa, I'm kind of freaking out right now, but it's okay. I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. Naming it is helpful. And this is heavy, so I'm going to take some time. We're going to talk later for sure. And if it's that strong, you probably need some time to ground yourself a little bit. Don't try to resolve it though. That goes back to that saying of not trying to solve the problem with the same thinking that created it in the first place. You're not in the right mindset to
do anything but emotional first aid.
You're gonna get caught up in that cyclical
looping.
The looping for sure. And then an hour goes by and you're like, oh, I can't resolve it. That is true suffering. I think all of us have experienced that. Myself included, for sure.
And I think some of the biggest regrets I have in my life is taking action in those moments of heightened, I'm freaking out, I'm looping. You pick up the phone or you send the email or you walk back in the bedroom and say another thing, right? Like you're not in your right. You're just not. You need such a spiritual timeout. You need such a spiritual timeout because that's when all the regret for me, at least, has come in when you act in those moments of not in your true self.
100%.
You're not in your right mind, period.
100%.
That's a real thing.
So perhaps we were a little bit more kind of structured today with some of this stuff, but I just felt like anyone that's listening, that's wanting to follow this and to try to follow a kind of path of getting some practical application and to trying to, maybe you live in the farm in middle of nowhere or something, and you're trying to work on yourself. Like, I just felt like we needed to do some more specifics about the actual specific emotions that most people are feeling when they first start trying to like want to improve their life. And these emotions come up. It's not like we find this emotional balance and then we're good. It's like, even when we are, quote, healed from our deeper pain and we are feeling more fulfillment in our life and all this stuff, it's like we still have to obviously keep these, like, address these things when they come up, address these emotions. So
it is a daily practice for me. No joke. Like, I have to be this aware. And so I appreciate this practical application, these tangible things, instead of someone just tells me to abstractly let go or whatever. Like, I'm going to lose.
Welcome to the most therapy therapist.
So I really appreciate
You really need to
this.
accept it and just let go
Yeah,
of it.
what does that even mean, accept
Cool,
it?
thanks.
Accept what? I hate this. I don't want to accept this. I want it to go away. Yeah. So I really loved these, that you broke it down, that you slowed it down. I'm going to ask this, like, it's like every time I get with you, I have this another little step of, all right, feel it, then the hope. But now I got to ask these questions. Like, I love it. It's like building on. I love the idea of I think my biggest takeaway today is if I could get the answer to whatever question to make me feel better, what would it be? And then have that energy come in and literally change and shift the feeling better. Whether it's real or not, it's real. Those emotions you've just generated yourself. That's so huge. That is, like, seriously so huge, Corey.
The power of everything we're talking about today is moving forward is definitely you, in whatever way you feel comfortable, opening up more about your process of what you're going through. You did that today. It was awesome. More of that is going to be powerful. So
People can't handle this story. They cannot.
you underestimate humans.
No, we all have a story.
Let's maybe wrap up with one question and then we'll end the podcast. Because what you were saying reminded me of this, and I think it's a good like bonus question to end on. So, there's so many good ones. Maybe let's end on this. Why is it that some people have to work so hard to feel self-love? It seems like it comes so much easier for some people, but then it almost seems like it's unfair. Why is it that it's harder, so much harder for some people?
It probably goes
Because you're a good example of both.
To having a deep-seated belief rooted in shame that you're flawed, that there's really, truly something wrong or broken with you. And so when you've had really hard things happen as an innocent child or as a grown person, you somehow believe you got in the wrong line. Somehow you look at everybody else and go, geez, how come they... And whether it's true or not, you believe that. You believe that somehow you're alone, that you're isolated, that no one else feels the way you do it. That's the lie, right?
Yes. So powerful what you're saying. I do believe that's true. And what another layer to that, just to kind of go a little bit deeper, is that a lot of people feel like there's something wrong with them. But logically, intellectually, they know that there's not. They're like, I'm cool. Right. Like, I'm awesome. Like, I'm
so
good.
Strong.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's real. Like, they actually believe that they're a great person and that there's going to be great things that happen in their life. They truly believe that. It's real. But they randomly just feel like they're not. So their emotions are not matching up with what they believe. They're having these feelings of shame that are still there that are coming up. So a beautiful way to look at this is that your younger self, whatever version you think of, 6 or 7 maybe, is pure and perfect. It's very close to your true self. But if you're not, so this union of your younger self and your current self, the natural state of your true self or your spirit, the natural baseline state is contentment. In other words, the natural state of everyone's soul or spirit is contentment and some degree of self-love. So if that is harder for somebody, it's because there's a wall of pain between their pure and true self versus their current self. And so to put it simply, why is it so hard for someone to have, why is it so much harder? It's because there's some pain that is still down there that is blocking them from just being able to, we actually shouldn't have to work. We shouldn't have to work probably a little, I'm probably being a little, but we shouldn't have to work that hard to feel good about who we are. It's the baseline state of ourself. So if that's not happening, it is okay. There is nothing wrong with you. There's just some pain that's still there that once you let go of and you break that wall down, your younger self and your current self will become one, and you will feel this contentment and this peace. And that's where our journey of this podcast is going for us together and for people listening. And so, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.